I'm Lauren Dinneweth, the director of the Orion Art Center, and I want to welcome you to The Palette. Every month we'll be taking a look at art and artists in our community. Now each year the Orion Art Center names an Artist of the Year, and this year that honor belongs to painter Yolanda Garfield. We'll also be speaking with Rob Cavanagh, who coordinates the dragon boat races for Dragon on the Lake and is already hard at work on this year's festival. Rob is also the Art Center's 2013 Patron of the Year. And we'll be talking with artist Mike Hendrix, who for the first time has brought together a collection of 40 years of his work at the Art Center. All this and more coming up on this month's edition of The Palette. Welcome back. Now I'm here with a wonderful artist, Mike Hendrix, and Mike has a 40-year retrospective that's going on at the Art Center right now for the month of February.
Right.
And we're going to take a look at some of your work here that you brought together over the past 40 years. Let's take a look at this. This is where a lot of your work began.
Right. This is after I got out of art school, I went into mechanical work, and we did the retouching for the cars and other items. This was to go into a brochure, and this is a differential of a car, and the same here. And so that was kind of the beginning of my career.
So let's move on to here, because I know you have so many different types of styles.
This is actually probably, this goes back about 40 years. And so I had, when I wasn't working the mechanical part of it, I could have time to do this, which it took a long time. And this was another one about the same time. And what I did here, I called it 7 Rabbits. And the reason I did it was because it's so hard to find the 7 Rabbits. So it gets a lot of attention.
So there's a lot of whimsy in your work too. Your sense of humor comes out.
You could call it that.
Do you think that you try different styles because it's fun or interesting, or?
I think it's because I get tired of doing just one thing. And so I have to be constantly kind of experimenting with different medias. I
know a lot of your works here have a Western theme and really encapsulate the open spaces of the West and the real fierce determination of the people who lived there.
Right.
And so what appeals to you about this subject?
I think it was because the first year I entered a painting in the National Parks contest, and that was about 17 years ago. So when you go out there, you get inspired to do Western art. And so I've continued to do this. I find it very enjoyable.
Is there something about, well, tell us about this man.
Yeah.
What is his story?
Well, this was in a book probably taken in the 1800s. And so I just found it very interesting. And of course back then everything was black and white, so I had to colorize it. I think this one is probably the most popular painting here. People have said that to me.
Is there a pressure that comes with doing a drawing or a painting that's so detailed and so intricate and layered?
I think I'm not satisfied with it unless I put a lot into it. And maybe it relates to my job so long ago where everything had to be intricate and precise.
Okay, let's walk over here a minute, because these are much more, this is magical.
Well, because I wanted to do something different. This would qualify, I believe, for that because of the sparkles and the moodiness of it. So after I do it, I can say, well, I did something different.
Do these places come from your imagination, or are they places you've been, or a group of
I think because I have looked in so many books, you get ideas, and I think most artists do. They look at other people's work, and everything has been done in a sense before, everything that you see. So I think every artist is influenced by somebody else.
Now, at this show, you have sold a number of your works.
Yes.
And including the two watercolors here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that's like, putting so much of yourself into your artwork and then selling it and passing it on to someone else.
Well, these years ago, about 25 years ago, I was doing a lot of watercolors, and I sold most of them. These two were left. And this was probably close to 25 or 30 years ago, and I just happened to have these.
When you give your artwork to someone, as I know you've done with your family members, or when you sell your artwork, is it like selling a piece of yourself or giving a piece of yourself away? You invest so much into it, or do you simply like to pass it on?
Yeah, if I do a lot of work free, I give it away. I enjoy seeing people be happy with it.
Tell me how the watercolors, for example, in these paintings, how it's different for you versus the oils and some of the other mediums. You work in so many different mediums.
Well, a good friend of mine was doing watercolors, and I couldn't do them. It's very difficult to do watercolors. So I just push myself to learn, and it's very difficult. So I made myself do it.
I know you also put, you've done portraits of your family.
Yes.
That they're able to pass down through the generations, and is that satisfying to you?
It is, it is. For instance, this one, this was a painting I did about, 30 or 35 years ago, and then I saw a photograph that had people, a family in it. So I took the truck out and I replaced all of the people in here in the table.
Show us some of it. You're in there too, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm way back here. I didn't want to get in it. But I've got my grandchildren in it, and then my parents, and then my wife's parents, and a few cats. So this was fun to do. I don't know which of our daughters will get it.
It's different generations all together in the same painting?
Right. I wanted to get them all in there.
Tell me about the portrait of your mother here.
This was my mother when she was 15, and she is now 91. But so I took this and I wanted to paint her, and of course I had to make up the colors. But this is something I enjoyed doing too.
And does your mother enjoy it as well?
I think she does. I think she does.
Now this is your granddaughter over here.
This is my granddaughter, and this is kind of a different style. I wanted to do something different. So it was taken by a friend of ours and my son-in-law's shoulder, and because it was from a distance, I think it gives it kind of a mysterious quality of her looking forward. And
what's the most satisfying part of creating a painting or a portrait?
I guess it's probably having people enjoy it.
So it's the sharing aspect
Right,
of it.
right.
Now we take a look at a different part of your personality altogether, right? I always say I want to climb into Mike's brain because you have so many different aspects to your work. It's really fascinating. So talk a little bit about these guys.
Okay. What I do, I tried to create something that looked like wood, and I wanted to see if people really thought it was wood. So this is actually made of styrofoam. And then what I do is cover it with the material you use to fill holes in the walls. So I covered it, I sand it until I get it like I want it, and then I paint it with acrylic. And for instance here, I painted in the wood grain and then the hair.
And these guys are really amazing. I mean, even when I come into the art center and other people come into the art center, we're startled because they're so realistic. What's the challenge about creating something like this, a man coming out of wood, to actually make him look real?
Yeah, I think that's it. It was just to really see if I could do it, because I get it in my head, can I do it? and it took a long time. I actually, because if this were a tree, the center of the rings would be right in the middle, and so I had to figure out how the rings would form. So I actually carved a little limb, and I could find out how the wood grain would work. And this is styrofoam too, so I actually got some bark to see what it would look like.
Now talk a little bit about Billy Bob in Love.
Okay.
He's made out of all kinds of
bits
and pieces of stuff.
He's basically, well, this is a board, but he's made of styrofoam, and like this guy, I had to shape the face first of all, and then I painted it, and then just got all kinds of things, garbage, leftovers, and I think I enjoyed doing this about as much as anything because it's so far removed from what I've been used to.
So, what is his story?
I think I was saying, what am I going to do next for the recycle show? So this just popped into my head, and it was fun. There's probably hundreds and hundreds of single pieces in here, and some of them relate. He's a Southern fella, and some things relate to being him from the South.
Now tell me about Where's Martha a little bit, because everyone has been searching for Martha. Martha is in there somewhere.
Yes.
But don't show everyone right
Yeah.
now.
Well, this is, when I started thinking of him, I could envision what was going to happen. I had to make his hair come out because it was a little extreme. And again, I had to find tons of little pieces. And a lot of pieces in here refer to the time that he lived, like a little gun. And then I have other pictures of presidents, but they're hidden inside. And there is a little picture of Martha in here. And then again, you have to find where she's at, which makes it more fun.
Talk a little bit about this gentleman here.
This was, I actually did him about 11 or 12 years ago, and this was my first venture into doing something different like him. He's made of sponge rubber, and then I just started, he's nobody in particular, but started in, and I just wanted to see if I could do it. And so he was fun. He was a lot of fun too.
You've gone through some health issues lately.
Yes.
In the past 5 years or so.
Yeah, well, 10 or 11 altogether.
How has your art helped you, do you think, in your recovery?
I think a lot of things I can't do anymore because I went through heart surgery, 2 heart surgeries, and almost died. I went through 3 brain surgeries and a stroke. And there's a lot of things I cannot do anymore, simple things, but
the Lord was so good to let him keep that ability.
And you said you feel every day's a gift.
It is. I mean, you have no assurance of tomorrow anyway, and this is just like every day. I just thank the Lord. Thank you for this day, because it was another day to spend with my best friend over there. You know, so he's and I'm here to help him out, and we're in it together.
But I think it's God has allowed me to stay here on earth to do something, and along with doing this type of work, we just give praise to God for pulling me through all of this.
Absolutely.
Orion Township Community Programs invites area families to the 4th Annual Growing Green Expo on Wednesday, March 20th from 1 to 7 p.m. Vendors will be stationed throughout the Orion Center offering information on green products, career opportunities, energy efficiency, greening your home, organic gardens, and parks and trails. Parking and admission is free to the public. That's the Growing Green Expo at the Orion Center, Wednesday, March 20th from 1 to 7 p.m. For more information, call 248-391-0304 extension 305 or visit oriontownship.org.
Well, I was on the Village Parks and Rec Committee, and just volunteered there. And what we're trying to do is improve the parks, fix what's broken, spend the money wisely. And I heard about Dragon on the Lake, and it just made sense. It was a community event. Lake Orion's needed a festival for quite a long time, and just got involved with it just to volunteer at the Art Center because I knew they were organizing this event, and it just seemed to make sense. And I offered my help any way I possibly could, and next thing you know, I got involved with building a float, a dragon float on the lake, and then I watched Sandy Mayberry put on the first Dragon Boat Festival, and then next thing you know, the year after that, they asked me if I wanted to help coordinate all the racing activities on the Dragon Boat racing in Greens Park, and I said I jumped at the opportunity to put together that part of it. And so I got 3 under the belt, and we've had Dragon Boat racing here for a total of 4 years now. And this year is going to be definitely the best year of it all. We're really excited about this year's festival. We got some great ideas. We've got a lot of returning teams from the past 4 years coming back. I talked to them immediately after the race, and they come to me with floods of ideas on how to make next year's event better. But also, after the event, they're just talking about how much fun they had, and oh my gosh, what it meant to them to bring their friends and neighbors together and celebrate the town and the lake and sitting there and competing with friendly rivalries from different parts of the lake and from the town and the village here. And it's absolutely awesome just to sit back. There's a couple of minutes during all the chaos of the event where I can kind of sit back and enjoy all the fruits of all the hard work of all the volunteers that have gone into it. And you sit back and you kind of have a grin on your face because you're seeing everybody having so much fun, the fun competitive rivalry going on, and also the pride of so many active people in the community coming together in one event and just really truly enjoying our community for what it is. And what we see is that you have all these people that care about the town. They come out and they celebrate the town that day. And one thing I've met by meeting all the different people, everybody has the same common goal at the end of the day, is to make the community better. And one of the things that I've had a couple community groups that aren't involved in the past years, they've said, how can we get involved? And it's, when we're just a little old art center, and with just a small group of board of directors and volunteers, and what we want to do is, how can Dragon on the Lake help these organizations? How can you have a strong group of team and leaders in your group, and at the end of the day, we want to invite them into this, and all these different community groups just being involved in Dragon on the Lake in one way, in the way that they best can provide. At the end of the day, built a better and a stronger community event for everybody, for all of our residents. When Lauren Dinneweth called me, I thought that she was talking to somebody else. So I was absolutely honored and flattered, because I've known other people ahead of me the past couple of years that have been patron of arts, and I've always respected every one of them, because I've watched them and everything that they've given back to the community, and what they've given, I would never ever expected this honor, and I'm just absolutely honored and thrilled, and I'll try and do the best as a patron of the arts, but very honored.
Hey, this is Mickey York from Fox Sports Detroit. When I want to get the inside scoop on local sports, I watch Between Terminus or Fox Sports Detroit.
I've always painted. I sold my first picture at 16, I think I was. I experiment a lot, and I think I love watercolor, and I love oil, and I love acrylic. Those are my three main mediums. Primarily, I'm a portrait painter, and the last 10 years or 15 years I've been doing animals and landscapes and lots of other kinds of painting. But I've always been a portrait artist. I started painting animals because I love animals. I really love them very much, which I consider a gift, and not everybody has that, and I'm happy that I do. And then when we moved to Alaska, the wildlife in Alaska was just such a compelling and exciting thing, and we lived very close to the Alaska Zoo, and there was always a bear or a moose or something in our yard, and so pretty soon I got kind of interested in and I love Henry Moore, you know, the sculptor, and the shapes of the animals started looking kind of like Henry Moore's sculpture to me. So I thought I would paint them. I'm not a sculptor. And as I started to work on those paintings, I got more invested in the Henry Moorish bulkiness of all those animals. And that's what got me started. And that led to landscapes. And then I figured out that Lucian Freud said that everything is a landscape. You know, he paints people as if they were landscapes. So I kind of stole that idea and tried to learn from it. So that's where I am right now. I think I paint because it's the best way I have of expressing a moment. It's just an opportunity to show just a moment in time. I did a series of paintings that are extremely detailed, and when I was done with that series, I felt like I had just wiped out every emotion that I had that was negative, because it's a negative series, and I felt like I spent it all, like all that Zen stuff that went into that painting, all those paintings. It's on the page, and actually, because those are such popular paintings, I mean, people seem to really get into them. I wish I had more of that in me to give, but I don't. So I have to just try something new. It's like running. It's like exercise. You know, you do it, and then you don't need to take medication. You know what I mean? If you run and work out physically, which I do, then I don't have to take Zoloft or, you know, any of the other medications so many people are on. I think it was 40 million people last count. And I think it's similar with painting. It's a longer process, I think, but it's similar with painting. If you paint, it is healing to a certain extent. It's a real outlet for creative people. Without the Art Center, I just don't know how they would reach out to other creative people. And I think creative people actually need each other. I think the community really needs an art center because it supplements art education for the children, primarily for the children, but it's a great outlet for artists like myself to show their work and have it be out in the public, because otherwise I'd be painting by myself in my house, and I don't know who would even know, other than Facebook, that I do anything. So this is very nice for me to have that venue.
Wow, those are three talented people, and we are so thankful to have them in our community. Now, before we go, we've got some exciting things happening in March at the Art Center that I want to tell you about. First, we have some nature-inspired healing classes led by art therapist Erin Shaley. That class will include botanical prints, watercolor, and acrylic painting to celebrate growth and healing. It's free to anyone, including patients and caregivers whose life has been affected by cancer. We're also offering live model portrait drawing classes with the Michigan Portrait Group and journaling with acclaimed artist Kimberly Santini, along with a whole range of classes for kids and adults. You can find out all about our classes and events by calling the Orion Art Center or by visiting us online at www.orionartcenter.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next month.